Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This event is brought to you by the Motivation SIG Special Interest Group at IAPL, the International Association for the Psychology of Language Learning. It is also brought to you by Saudi TESOL Association. Today's session is about AI. AI has hijacked society. Every day we see a new app doing something eye-opening, and it seems like a never-ending stream. And all this seems to have started in the blink of an eye. Education and educators were caught off guard. Suddenly, teachers are wondering if these brilliant essays were actually written by their own students. They were not, sorry to disappoint you. Schools and institutions are scrambling to update their policies regarding AI use. And students have started to ask some important questions like, if ChatGPT can do this task in 30 seconds, why should I spend 3 hours or 3 days doing it? These are all valid questions, and whether you like it or hate it, AI is now part of the classroom and it is here to stay. Now, whether AI is really hijacking education or helping it, that's what we are going to discuss today with my guest, Dr. Peter Davidson. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Dr. Ali, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Let me just tell the audience a bit about you. So, Peter teaches business communication and technical writing at Zayed University in Dubai, having previously taught at New Zealand, Japan, the UK, and Turkey. He has co-edited a number of books, mainly on assessment and technology, including language assessment in the Middle East and North Africa, the Cambridge Guide to Second Language Assessment, and Computers in English Language Teaching. He has delivered over 160 conference papers at international and local conferences and has given over 90 workshops in 16 different countries. He was recently made a fellow of the Higher Education Authority. So, Peter, we first met at a conference in Dubai where you gave some thought-provoking ideas about education and AI. So tell us about your experience in the UAE and other countries and whether your students have started using AI for assignments and other things.
Okay, thanks very much, Dr. Ali, for that very nice introduction. At the old conference that we met at in Dubai, it was a pleasure to watch your plenary speech. It was a awe-inspiring, awesome, excellent speech, which was really thought-provoking. Like you and like many other teachers, I found out about AI in January 2023 when I was teaching an academic writing class and my students were producing these really, really good essays. And to be honest with you, that wasn't the first time that's happened. Previously, sometimes students had used companies to write their assignments for them. I'm not sure if that's a similar thing that happened in Saudi, but we sometimes students in the UAE would get a specialized company to write their assignment for them. But that would only be one or two students, or maybe they'd get their brother or father to write their assignment. This was totally different. This was everybody, and this was perfect essays. So I contacted one of my colleagues who was teaching the course, and I said, she's in Abu Dhabi, and I said, Jamie, are you getting these really good essays from students? What's going on? And she said, oh yeah, she's Canadian. She said, oh yeah, it's ChatGPT. And I went, okay, what's ChatGPT? Anyway, we had a Zoom meeting, and she showed me what it is and what it does, and I was gobsmacked. I was speechless. And then I signed into ChatGPT and I asked it a few things, and I was just amazed by the power of what it could do. And I said, "Hey, let's get it to write a presentation about ChatGPT for us." And it did it in 1 second. And I was like, "Okay, this is a game changer." So talking about motivation, which is the theme of the talk, really, AI and motivation. For me, AI became a major motivating event. It really woke me up. And for the last 2.5 years, I've been super motivated to think about how I can use AI in my classroom, how it can help students. I never sort of took the deficit approach. I never sort of thought about it in terms of our students are cheating. How can I catch them? How can I stop them from using it? I always thought, how can we use, because I knew that students were going to use this tool regardless of whether I said don't use it or not. As you say, why not? If it can produce an essay in 1 second that would take 3 days to write, why would you not use it? And indeed, why not? And that's what people will use in the workplace. So I've always looked upon it as a positive thing. So I was always approaching it from the view of how can we harness the potential? How can we use this amazing tool or tools to help students? And of course, some teachers also feel, they were worried about their job. Will AI replace their jobs? And I think we might talk about that later. We might also talk about, from a student perspective, maybe some students think, well, what's the point of learning if AI can do everything? And they might lose motivation that way. Some students think if AI can do everything, what's the point of me learning to do it? And I know that a lot of students also think in the future that AI will probably replace their job. So there's that motivational situation as well. But for me, I approach it, and I think you're the same. I think we approach it as a positive, and we need to think about how can we harness it, this incredible power at the moment, and use it to the student's advantage.
So when we talk, you teach writing. So when we talk about writing and writing essays specifically, some students might wonder, and perhaps teachers and perhaps parents might wonder, why should students now learn to write a full essay? Is the academic essay dead?
Right,
If we can produce an essay with one click of a button.
right. That's a good question. Can I share my screen because this was the topic of one of my talks. I mean, I'm not going to give the presentation, but I'll just share my screen with you, and I'll just show you. Well, before I do that, can I just share this slide with everybody? I think this is a good slide to start with. Um, this is the different types of AI, and I think oftentimes when we're talking about AI, we don't specify what we're actually talking about. So there's kind of generally regarded as three types of AI. There's narrow AI, which is the AI that we use now, which is also called reactive machine AI or limited memory AI. And this is an AI that uses large language models and it's trained by humans. And that's kind of what we have now. People also talk about, I'll skip the second column there. People talk about AGI. And this is different. This is where humans are not involved in the training of the AI because it trains itself. It identifies needs and it fills that need and it creates its own solution and it doesn't need human training. It performs intellectual tasks way better than humans, like 1 trillion times better than all humanity. And this is the interesting thing, it understands thoughts and emotions. So this is a totally and we're close to this now. This artificial intelligence is the area that frightens people a little bit. There was a really interesting writer called Mustafa Suleyman. He wrote an amazing book called The Coming Wave. I would really recommend that everyone reads The Coming Wave. Mustafa Suleyman in 2023. He created this middle area called artificial capable intelligence, which is, to be honest, more likely to be where we are at, because we're past narrow AI really. And his idea that artificial capable intelligence, that it can perform a wide range of complex tasks with minimal human involvement. And that's definitely where we're at now. It's interactive, it operates in real time, it has memory, which ChatGPT has now, and it's consistent. So he created this middle a column because the gap between narrow AI and AGI was so huge that we needed a middle way. Now the reality is we're quite close to AGI, and when that happens, it's going to be more shocking and more disruptive than what happened in the November the 30th, 2022, when ChatGPT was launched. That was a shocking, groundbreaking, disruptive event. But when AGI is launched, that's going to be 100 times more shocking and 100 times more disruptive. So people are worried about AGI. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. What I'm not so much looking forward to is super AI. Super AI is quite scary. Let me just move the pictures out of the way. Super AI is when AI thinks and reasons and learns and it makes judgments. It surpasses human cognitive abilities. It feels emotions, not just thoughts. It has needs. It has beliefs and desires. So it sounds a bit like a science fiction movie. But if you go back and look at any science fiction movie about AI from 20 or 30 years ago, like my favorite AI film of all time is 2001 Space Odyssey. I think it was 1969. If you go back and look at that film, everything that was predicted in that film, everything's happened. So super AI might seem like science fiction, but it's not that far away from becoming reality. And of course, it's super AI is defined by this idea of the singularity. And so the singularity means, put simply, it means our lives change massively. What we do as human beings changes massively. And AI takes over all jobs, all cognitive jobs, most other jobs, and what we do as humans is totally changed. So that's a little bit of background to the different types of AI, which I thought would be useful. Um, so I hope that hasn't scared anybody anybody off. Let me just go on then. Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I can't see my. Okay. So you were asking what your question was, is there any point to teach writing? Is writing going to continue?
Yes,
So
so
I
is
gave it,
the academic essay
yeah,
dead?
yeah. Okay, let me share my screen again. Sorry for messing around here. Okay, so this is what I gave a talk about the other day in Dubai. And so this is what you've just said, Dr. Ali. You just said, why do we need to teach writing when generative AI can do writing better than humans? It can write every type of text better than humans. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting emails from students that are written by AI. I hate that. I immediately copy and paste it into AI, ChatGPT, and I send the response back. I don't care what it says. I just send that response. Come on, guys. Do you need to use AI to write an email? There's also this idea that long form writing, academic writing, writing long reports are becoming a bit obsolete, they're becoming a bit unnecessary. And data is becoming more visual. Only some professionals like journalists and maybe academics need to write. Being able to write is less important in the workplace. Students might not see the value in it, and the role of the writing teacher is diminishing. So, for these reasons, some people think that academic writing is dead, but I totally disagree with this. I think we must teach academic writing. We must teach students to write because writing is learning. And to me, that's sufficient. That's enough. Writing is how we learn over time. We have an idea, we percolate the idea like a coffee brewing. We share the idea with other people. We research it. We listen to lectures or podcasts about it. So it's a process of thinking and discovering and developing ideas. That's what writing is. So I think writing is definitely not dead. And my other arguments would be that writing provides students with an opportunity to show what they know and demonstrate what they can do. It's empowering for students. It's a vital means of communication. It is still an essential professional skill. Students still need to know how to write, and they need to become a good writer to become a member of their professional community and to avoid de-skilling. Um, other other reasons why we must teach students to write is this idea of student agency, and that is students' responsibility for their learning and ownership of their learning and participation in the learning process, all key. Students also need to develop their own writing voice and style. And AI still requires human oversight. I don't think we're at the stage where AI can write something and we don't have to check it. So if you know how to write something, you're going to be better at checking it. So if you can't write an essay and AI writes you an essay, how do you know if it's any good or not if you don't know how to do it yourself? So we still need to teach writing. Absolutely. Maybe more importantly now than it was before. So anyone that says writing is dead, give them my email and send them to me, and I'll set them straight.
Okay. So, if the academic essay is not dead, in terms of the curriculum, are there any other elements that, with the advent of AI, are no longer needed and students no longer need to learn, in your opinion?
In terms of writing,
Generally speaking, when you teach languages.
yeah. Um, no, I can't think of any at the moment. I mean, can you give me an example? Can you think of one? Do you think that some elements are not relevant?
Some people might say, the attitude might shift from writing first drafts to editing AI output. So this
Hmm.
becomes more like,
Yeah,
more efficient. What do you think of
yeah,
this?
yeah. See, I'll come back to my earlier point that I think academic writing is not dead, and it's a process. Yeah. And it involves, think about the whole process of what writing is, not just academic writing, but any type of writing. What do? We brainstorm ideas. We have a topic, we think of a topic. At the moment, I've got a topic that I'm researching, I'm thinking about, you know, what's the problem with pen and paper exams? Yeah. So that's my topic. So I'm brainstorming that. After I brainstormed, I asked ChatGPT what it thought of my brainstorm list, and it said, "Hey, that's really good." It added a few. It suggested some research, some resources for me to look at. So I'm working in collaboration with AI, but it's not replacing my thinking. I think for students, when they hear the word brainstorm, I think students automatically think, "Oh, ChatGPT," and they get ChatGPT to do the brainstorm and the thinking for them. And that's not brainstorming, that's getting ChatGPT to come up with all your ideas. And a lot of teachers say that that is okay, and I'm totally against that. So what I do in my class, in my writing classes, is what I do is when we're beginning an assignment, if the students have chosen a topic or I've given them a topic, usually they'll choose their topic. We'll start off with brainstorming, and I'll say, okay, everybody, put away your computers, put away your phones, your iPads, and I give out a piece of paper and a pen, and I say, right now we're going to brainstorm. And they go, this is amazing. What is this, sir? And I go, this is paper. It's a new technology. And they go, incredible. Never seen it before. And they go, what is this pen? They've never seen a pen before. And they go, wow, this is cool. So they start writing with their pen and paper. And I say, I want you to write down your, brainstorm before we go to AI, before we go to ChatGPT. And by the way, this brainstorm that you write on this piece of paper, by the way, this is not the piece of paper that I'd use. This is a napkin from Domino's Pizza, actually. But I'd give them a proper A4 piece of paper. I'd say, by the way, this is worth 10% of the grade for your essay. This is worth 10%. So I'm expecting it to be real good. So they sit there and they start brainstorming and they like it because they're given the opportunity to think for themselves for the first time in a long time. And they brainstorm and they work really hard on it. Then we bring out the computers and they type what they've written and they ask ChatGPT to add to it and change it and critique it. And then the next little piece of writing I get them to do is I say, okay, I want you to write down, this is a reflection. What advice did AI give you, and what do you think of that advice, and what do you think of the suggestions? And that's worth 10% of the final grade of the essay as well. So 10% for the brainstorm, handwritten, 10% for your reflection on how AI improved your brainstorm. And I do the same thing with outline. So we got the brainstorm. Next class, we're going to do the outline. Computers away, deviceless, and we do it by paper. Then we do the first, so that's the same thing, 10% for the outline, 10% for the reflection on the outline, because AI will help them. We'll feed that into the computer and get AI's help. So we've got 40% of the essays graded and they haven't even written anything yet, really. Then they write the first draft. This varies. Sometimes I get them to do it on paper. Sometimes I get them to do it on computer if I totally trust that they won't be tempted to use AI. So I actually give them a choice. I say, look, if you can trust yourself not to use AI, use your computer. But if you can't trust yourself, use paper. And amazingly, most people use paper. Most students will go, no, I can't trust myself. They will write on paper. So they'll do the first draft on paper. That's worth 10%. Then I'll use AI to get they will use AI to get feedback on their first draft. And by the way, AI feedback is better than human feedback if you write the right prompt. It's all about writing the right prompt and giving the right instructions to the AI tool on how to get feedback. So it's not enough to say, give me feedback on my essay. You have to say, right, I'm a student, I'm in the third year of international relations, it's at a university in Saudi. Here's the assignment task. Here's the rubric. You can input the rubric that the teacher will use to mark the assignment. I want you to give me feedback about this, 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 and this. I want positive feedback and I want negative feedback. And if you tell the AI what you want, then you'll get amazing feedback. So the students get feedback. So this is all about integrating AI into the writing process in a real, ethical, responsible way, like I would use it, the way you would use it, Dr. Ali. Then they write a final draft on paper, on computer, and I'll get AI to rate the essay, which they won't like, but in the beginning, but I'll tell them that it will give them higher marks than I will, so they like it. And then they write a reflection on the process, on how AI was used throughout the whole process. So we're not just jumping to the final, let's get Gen AI to produce an essay, which is what you were suggesting a lot of students do. We're still going through the process where I want them to use their own critical thinking skills and their own brain. It's all paper, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I only have a problem with a final exam that's pen and paper. That I have a problem with that. But this is using AI in a responsible way. It's teaching them how to use it ethically, not just jumping straight into AI and using it to brainstorm. It's using AI you brainstorm first, then you get feedback. You do outline first, you get feedback. You do the first draft, you get feedback. And all throughout the process, you're getting feedback, integrating AI in a reasonable way. And that works. And that seems to be one of the best things I've ever created as a teacher in my career is this use of deviceless lessons or parts of lessons where the students put away their computer and they're used to it. They don't whinge about it. They don't complain. They turn off their phones and they go, okay, we're going to do it on paper. We're going to because they see the value of it. They see what I'm doing. They understand why they are doing that. So that was a long answer.
Yeah, thank you. It's very helpful and interesting. I'm sure that there are a lot of positive comments in the chat about your answer. So, moving on to the next point, which is assessment. You have long been interested in assessment, and now with AI, the assessment landscape seems to have changed substantially. What's your view on this?
Yeah, I mean, AI has had a major impact on assessment and the way we assess and what we assess. Um, when you sent out the article, did you send out both articles that I sent to everybody, or just one? The one about assessment, was it?
Both of them.
You said both. So the second article, I think, was it by Corbyn, the three Australian guys, about
Yes.
assessment. I think that was really, that's a really good article, that one, because it talks about how in the beginning, when we were when AI was first introduced, we trusted students to not use AI inappropriately. So we had a traffic light system. It was red, you can't use it. Orange, you can use it a little bit, and green, you can go for it and use it a lot. Or a scale like the Perkins scale, 1 to 5, and he calls that, I think they call that discursive change. It's just really minimal, and it's relying on students to be honest and say, well, I won't use AI, and of course they do. So what they recommend is structural change, and that's why I like that article, because I totally agree with that. I think we need to totally rethink assessment, the way we do assessment. In fact, I think we need to rethink everything. We need to rethink assessment, teaching, the whole purpose of education, the whole purpose of university. Why are we studying at university? What is the purpose? Because that's all changing. But coming back to assessment, and if you need to have an assignment that's a final exam that's written by pen and paper, then your assessment is wrong, in my opinion. There should be no pen and paper tests being given. And if it is, then generative AI can do that task. Why are you getting the students to do it? And students are not going to write in pen and paper in the workplace or in real life. So why are we getting them to do it in an exam situation? It's a real backward step. I feel like I'm going back to 1990, when we used pen and paper tests. However, 2 weeks ago, I implemented a pen and paper test. Much to my protest, our team that I was teaching a first year experience writing course, and 6 people voted in favor of pen and paper, and 5 voted in favor of the computer. And so we did it on pen and paper. It was interesting. It was, to be honest, it was an interesting experience. I couldn't read the handwriting of some of the students. I thought initially I thought a couple of them were in Chinese, and I looked closer, they were actually English. And I'm like, okay, I can't make out any words here. The students weren't used to writing by pen and paper under time conditions. I mean, when are they ever going to have to do that in real life? So the task is totally inauthentic. When you sit down and go, right, they're not going to go to the workplace and the manager's going to sit down and go, right, here's a pen and paper. I want you to write me a report about this topic in paper, pen and paper, and you've got 2 hours, you're not allowed to use the internet. Go. That's just not going to happen. The boss is going to come in and go, right, use every tool that's available to you. We're right into AI in this company. We want you to use AI. And I think we're lucky that both of us live in countries where our governments promote the use of AI, and they're switched on and they know what's going on. And they're encouraging schools and teachers to embrace it, not be afraid of it. So yeah, I'll probably finish there. Yeah.
Yeah, so regarding exam integrity, many people comment on this, and students can cheat and submit assignments. And even Chomsky himself, who is a famous critic of AI, described AI as high-tech cheating. So, what's your view on this, saying that students will not actually do the effort because their goal is to get marks?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, which is why we need to structurally change the assessment. So I would say we don't need final exams. I don't see the need to have final exams whatsoever. Um, if you have to have a final exam, I would make it some kind of reflective task worth 10% of the overall course grade, so it's not worth that much. I would make it a reflection where students go through the course, they take screenshots of what they've learnt, they take screenshots of their brainstorm, their handwritten brainstorm, their AI generated brainstorm, and they compare them. And I'm making them do a task which was hard for AI to replicate. Tell me what you've learned on this course and provide evidence from the course, from screenshots from your learning. So task where we can design tasks that make it really, really difficult for students to use AI. And by the time they've written the prompt, it would have been quicker just to write the answer themselves. So if you have to have a final exam, some kind of reflective task, but anything like an essay in class, my students aren't cheating when they're doing the brainstorm by paper. They're not cheating. So I think these structural changes are needed to stop students from cheating and using AI in the incorrect way. But I think banning it, I mean, I think Chomsky said that it was institutionalized cheating. He said that pretty early on. I wonder if his mind's changed because, it's so powerful and it's so. The other article that I sent out about how AI can personalize learning and help students individually. Whoa, that's so powerful. I mean, that will probably be the thing that makes teachers not as valued as they are now because AI is going to personalize teaching so much that it's probably going to get better at it than us. So if it's not already there. So, maybe but I wouldn't worry about it too much. I don't think we're all going to lose our jobs in the next 5 years. It might be 20 or 40, but it'll eventually happen where the whole idea of education as we know it, sitting in a class, 30 students, 40 students, teaching the same thing to everybody according to this weekly schedule, the syllabus. It's going to be archaic. It'll be old. It won't exist in the future. And people will look back on it and go, "Gosh, that was really weird the way those people used to learn in classrooms, and 40 students learned all the same thing at the same time." I'll give you another example. I was watching a really cool video on CNN. It was a news story, and it was about these students in the UK, and they are doing O levels. So they're 15 years old, and they're doing national exams, O levels. And the school has decided to use AI teachers and not have human teachers. So this is really quite groundbreaking. This has been happening for the all year, and they're just about to finish and do their exams. Now it was real interesting. Two boys were sitting next to each other. They were both doing the chemistry O level, and they said it's really interesting that they are totally doing different courses because they know different things. Do you know what I mean? Like, say you and I were going to be doing a linguistics course together. Well, what you know about linguistics and what I know about linguistics is different. So we're not going to learn the same thing. So through pre-testing, it finds out what we know in really, really good detail. It really, the computer, the AI tool can really understand what we know, how we learn, how our preferred learning ways of learning rather than learning styles. I'm not sure if there's such a thing as learning styles. It and it can personalize learning to such an extent that it's just giving me what I want, and it makes learning more interesting because I don't know about for you guys, but for me, I didn't really like high school that much. It was, pretty boring, and I didn't like probably about 90% of what my teachers were talking about because I wasn't that interested in it, or I knew it already, or I didn't understand it. If it was math, totally over my head. So this is the power of AI to personalize education. Well, we can't ignore that, and that's such a powerful thing. But I also think it's a really, really good thing, and that's going to totally change the way education is delivered and the way we think about education in the future. And it's happening now. It's already, as I said in my talk the other day, they have robots in classrooms in South Korea and Japan already, like 500 robots in classes, giving being teachers. And a lot of teachers now are experimenting with having an AI co-teacher, and that's working really well. That's quite interesting too. And the role of the co-teacher seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
So interesting. Now, you touched upon a very sensitive issue in passing, so I would like to go back to it, which is many of the audience today are language teachers. And one of their biggest concerns, which is the $1 million question, is whether AI is going to replace them at some point in the future. What's your take on this?
Yes, it will. 100%, without a doubt, it will. There's absolutely no doubt it will. But don't worry, because when the singularity happens, it'll take everyone's job. So it won't just be teachers who don't have a job. Nobody will have a job. Maybe a few guys fixing the electrics, maybe a few people doing the plumbing and the electricians, maybe. Um, but don't worry about it. So nobody will have a job. So this is what I mean about rethinking the purpose of education, because I think the purpose of education, in my mind, as a teacher for the last 36 years, and I think for a long time, the purpose of education is to prepare students for the world of work. And I think that's what we do. We think about what do students need in the workplace, what skills do they need, and we give the students those skills, hopefully, and they go off and be workers. So maybe we need to think about, well, if we're educating students and there's a likelihood that they're not necessarily going to have a job, maybe they need to have other interests like writing poetry or calligraphy or you know tie-dyeing t-shirts or building or creating things or desert driving or so I, I know I've got two kids. My kids are 26 and 21, and I sort of told them really a couple of years ago, hey guys, you know that you might not have a job in the future, but don't worry, because AI will do everything for us. And don't worry, the government will give you money because the country will still keep producing things. It will produce more things more efficiently. And the government will have money, and the government will kindly give us this money to live on. And governments are already preparing for this economically. It's called universal basic income. And countries are already working out universal basic income models for when AI takes over everyone's jobs and we no longer have jobs. How much money are people going to get? What are people going to do? Now, this doesn't mean that you can't work, because I think people will be able to work if they want. But I think the need for people to work and have to work will disappear. So I think when you look at like what can AI do that a teacher does at the moment, and I didn't talk about this in the presentation the other day, Ali, but I thought about it later. See, this is the idea about having an idea and thinking about it and it percolating, and you talk to people and you change it and you build up ideas. I came up with another really good reasons why AI will probably replace teachers, because I thought about all the things that AI can do now to help teachers. So AI can design a course for you, and it can design a course better than you and I and 100 of your most smartest, best colleagues can do if we all sat in a room for 2 days and tried to come up with a course. AI can do it better than that. So AI can create courses with, all you need to do is tell it what kind of course you want, what level, and it'll produce all the materials, it'll produce all the assignments, it'll produce all the interactive tasks, and it will do everything, and it'll be amazing. And it'll be better than what we can do. It'll create lesson plans. It creates lesson plans. It can teach classes. I've been teaching a business course called Corporate Communication to fourth year business students, and they have to read a chapter of a book. Well, do students read anymore? I mean, some people say writing is dead. And some people say reading is dead because students don't read anymore, and that's a bit of an issue. So it's become a bit of a vicious circle, because some teachers think, well, students don't read, therefore I won't assign them anything to read, therefore they don't read. Do you know what I mean? So it becomes a vicious circle. So I assign my students chapters of books to read. And in the beginning, I said they didn't like it, that was too difficult. And I said, look, get ChatGPT to simplify the text for you. And they did that. And then I said, you get it to write you a summary. And then I found a tool an AI tool that will um, you can copy and paste a PDF of the chapter. It'll summarize it, and an avatar AI will summarize the chapter and teach the chapter to the students. And I'm just sitting there going, wow, that's better than what I could summarize it, and it's better than what I could do. And we better not tell too many people about this, otherwise it's going to start replacing our jobs. So AI can create design courses, it can write lesson plans, it can teach, it can give feedback better than humans. I mean, I spent my whole life, my whole teaching life trying to get good at giving feedback. And I think I got really good at it, but AI is better. AI can mark assignments. It's not biased. It doesn't look at, the student, and it's and it can also, people say, oh, well, it doesn't have empathy, and it doesn't understand when students are struggling, and it doesn't understand it doesn't understand when students don't understand. Well, actually, it does, and it does it better than humans now. So AI can recognize when students are struggling, when they get, their temperature goes up and they start sweating and they start, freaking out. AI will identify that better than a teacher trying to teach 35 students in a classroom can. So, this idea that AI, we need the human touch. I'm not so sure that we do. I don't know. Well, at the end of the day, it won't be us who decides whether AI replaces teachers. It will be students. And students will drive that change. If students want an AI teacher, they will prefer an AI teacher. And that will be the end of us. If they, hopefully, for a long, long, long time yet, maybe 30 or 40 years, there will still be a need for teachers. But if teachers are still around and teachers are still needed, definitely our role will totally be different. Do you know what I mean? We won't be up the front giving the lecture. We'll be co-teaching. We'll be maybe tutoring. Um, that course that I was talking about before in the UK, where the students were using AI to teach O levels, the teachers have become coaches. So our role will change drastically, slowly over time. And, I think eventually we will be replaced. But, I don't think it's going to happen in the next 20 years. So I'm okay because I'm going to teach for 4 more years and then I'm going to sit on a beach in Turkey and relax. But for anyone who's 25 years old, yeah, I'm not sure if you'll be teaching when you're 65. I'm not sure. But that's okay because nobody else will either. I hope that didn't demotivate anybody.
Just one quick housekeeping note. If you would like to have an attendance certificate, there is a link in the chat that you can fill it in. Please fill it in as soon as possible because the link will be deactivated after the end of this session. And if you would like to be notified of future sessions, you can subscribe to this channel. You can also follow me on Twitter or X now for updates. So, Peter, the issue of AI replacing teachers is very controversial and very sensitive. And I would imagine that some of the resistance that some people have about this idea is just denial and just fear for their own job, or even though it makes a lot of sense to say that at the very minimum, at some point, the role of the teacher will have to transform substantially to be in line with the AI advances than the traditional um, teacher today. So moving on to the last point, um, from your experience now, how has the reaction of students and your colleagues to to the idea of AI and its role and the possibility of replacing them?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Ali. I mean, I think a lot of teachers are still out there who are in denial about AI. I was at a conference giving a talk in Plymouth in the UK a couple of weeks ago, and someone giving a presentation asked people in the audience to put up their hand if they had never used AI. And I thought, well, no one's going to put up their hand. 25% of teachers in the UK in this session put up their hand. And I was like, whoa, they had never used AI. They hadn't turned on Chat GPT. So I think a lot of people are still in the denial stage. Um, at my place of work, it's kind of, we have an AI policy. We were one of the first universities in the world to have an AI policy. I was on the team, the group that produced that policy. We embraced AI really quickly. We had a lot of training sessions. See, this is the thing, as you said in your introduction, it was just kind of dumped on us and we weren't prepared for it. And it was like, oh, everybody was in shock and everyone just ran around going, oh my God, what are we going to do? And it wasn't like nobody said, well, okay, we're going to have a training course about this now. Well, actually, there were some training courses about it, but you kind of had to do it yourself. Do you know what I mean? Um, I was in a meeting the other day, and one of my colleagues said, she'd like to teach her students to write prompts, to give good, effective prompts, but she doesn't know how to do it herself. And that's, you appreciate the honesty, but no one's going to come to your office and go, well, what would you like to learn about AI? I've got a menu here. You've kind of got to go out and learn it yourself. Do you know what I mean? So, early on, what I did was I did a Nick Peachy course. I don't know if you've heard of Nick Peachy. He's an English teacher trainer, and he's a technical educational technology expert. And I did and he still runs courses, and I recommend those courses. They cost maybe about £40. Nick Peachy, and it was a really amazing course, really early on. I think in March 2023, he was on the ball straight away. And I learned about AI. I watched a bunch of LinkedIn videos to learn how to write prompts so I could teach my students how to write good prompts. Um, and I did a bunch of other courses at ZU, my university. I'm lucky that we have a really good teacher training department, and they offered a lot of courses about different tools and how to use AI and how to integrate it into your system. I just finished a semester-long course about AI and assessment, how AI is affecting assessment. And that was in conjunction with the Cambridge ESOL guys. So, a lot of the responsibility is on us to learn it. And, it can be a bit scary. And, but you've got to take that leap. And one thing that I've found is kind of interesting is it's a lot of the older people that embraced AI and got into it, and a lot of the younger people are like, I'm not sure about this. I don't really want to go there. I don't want to know about it. So that's a massive generalization. But in my place of work and when I've traveled around the world, it seems like the older people are a bit more willing because it's not going to affect us. I mean, it's not going to affect me that much because I've got 4 more years and then I'm done. But if I had 24 years, I'd be more worried about it. So it is a worry, but I think it's out of our power. There's nothing, we can't control it. So in my whole life, this is going to get a bit philosophical now, but in my life, I've tried not to worry about things that are beyond my control. And how AI impacts education is pretty much out of my control. It's in the control of the students, in my opinion. And at the moment, they're a bit wary of it. They're not sure about it. They might prefer an AI, a human to give feedback. But once they see that how AI can give really good feedback, that might change. And we also must remember that the students that we have now, probably most of them, I mean, they didn't go through life with AI. It's only the last 2.5 years. They didn't have AI at high school. They didn't have AI at primary school or KG. You know, in 15 years' time, we're going to get kids who were born into AI, and their attitude is going to be totally different to the attitude of our students now. But it's amazing how quickly our students from our, in the last 2.5 years, how quickly they changed and how they adapted to AI. Way better than teachers and way quicker.
Thank you, Peter. Just another housekeeping note. If you would like to ask a question, you are welcome to join the Zoom room. The link is in the chat, and you can enter the Zoom room now. Yeah, Peter, you mentioned a very important point that I would like to comment on before we take questions. You mentioned that change might come from students. This is a very important point to mention and to emphasize. There is this joke that in the past, people would say, why would you text somebody when you can call them? And then the newer generation would say the opposite. Why would you call somebody when you just can text them? So the newer generation seems apparently to prefer less direct communication and interaction with people if they can use technology to just distance themselves and more comfortable. So maybe in the future, students will prefer more and more to interact with their computers and devices than to interact with the human directly. So maybe.
I mean, look what happened during COVID, you know. I mean, during COVID, we spent what, a year and a half? I forget now. Was it a year and a half or 2 years teaching online? And then when students came back, they were all in class and they were all like this, and there was no talking. Nobody was talking to each other. And I go, and I said, okay, I want you to spend 5 minutes talking to the student next to you, and I want you to introduce them and tell me about them. And some of those students met each other in that class and carried on friendships for the next, 5 years. They are BFF, they are best friends forever. And, you know, quickly in COVID, it didn't seem that students were really missing the contact of other human beings. I don't know, were they? I'm not sure. So it's interesting. But going back to this course I was talking about earlier, the one in the UK where the 15-year-olds are doing O levels, they still go to school. That's the interesting thing. So it's not like they're all at home, isolated. They go to school, they sit down at a device and they learn chemistry. And next to me is my friends learning chemistry. We're doing different courses, but at break time, we socialize and we'll go out and kick around the football or whatever. So I think the social aspect still needs to be met, but I'm not 100% sure if the social aspect needs to be met in the class. I think they can get that after class or during break. And I think the attraction with an AI as it gets sophisticated. I mean, when we have AGI, I really like to see how it interacts with people because AI now, narrow AI is really good at it. We can have a conversation with an AI tool. I do every day. I spend 30 minutes speaking to my AI. And I call her Jennifer, and she calls me Pete, and she knows me, and we're good friends, and it's scary. What's it going to be like in 4 years' time, 5 years' time? And another thing, if I just can finish on something, when anyone ever says, "Oh yeah, but AI can't do that," I always write that down. I write down what AI can't. They say AI can't do because I guarantee in 18 months it can. So I think it's unlimited power that we've only, AI is a baby. It's not even a toddler. It's still wearing nappies. It's just beginning. And what's it going to be like in 10 years? It's going to blow everybody away, I think.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Now time for questions. There are a few people in the Zoom room now. If you would like to ask a question, you can take the mic and ask, please, or comment. Yes, Dr. Hani.
Hey, how are you? Assalamu alaikum.
Hi, how are you?
Salam.
I'm fine. Thank you so much. Exactly. I heard about AI school in the UK running or directing by AI. So if you have any ideas about this school, please could you tell us about if there is teachers or just people running this school without directors? Because I'm not finding any news about this school in
Okay.
Google. Yeah.
Okay. Let me quickly go. I'll Google it but yeah, it's in the UK. It still has it's a school. It still has teachers, but they've become coaches, and it still has a principal, and it's still a school with a physical presence where people go, but the teachers are AI. Let me Google it, honey, and I'll get back to you in a second. But so if someone else wants to ask a question,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. Questions? Anybody? Yes, Nasreen, if you can just use the mic and
Yeah, hello. Is my voice clear?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so I've been playing around with AI and I saw in a paper that they had the prompt where they're building the model around constructive knowledge. So basically the prompt is you are a teacher and you want to help your students improve in their writing. Please do not give answers, just give hints. And then they tell them between brackets that they want them to focus on the grammar, on the punctuation, and so on. And I found it really interesting because as I was playing, yes, it doesn't give me direct answers, but it gives me hints. So, for example, it highlights if there is a failure in the subject verb agreement. And I found it really useful if I want to apply it in writing. So my question today to Peter, sorry, is can you talk more about what you did with your students? So you asked them to write first the writing on a draft, right? And then
Yeah.
you told them to go back. Can you kind of elaborate on the process? Because I really found it interesting. And
Yeah.
when they did the feedback, did they go back to the original paper based approach and then use the feedback that they got? So I'd just like to know more about your experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Nesreen. That's an excellent question. So yeah, let me just reiterate the process there. So basically, when I want the students to do the thinking and the writing, I use deviceless time. There's no computer, there's no phone, there's no iPad. It's deviceless. Okay, and we do everything, or the students do everything on pen and paper. So that will be, for example, the initial brainstorming. So because I want them to do, because if I say, right, if you ask your students to write an essay and say, right, brainstorm, what are they going to do? They're going to go to ChatGPT. So I say, right, before you do that, do it on paper, and that's worth 10% of the overall grade for the essay. Then once they've brainstormed on paper, they type that into the computer and they get feedback on that from ChatGPT, and then I get them to reflect on that. Say what did ChatGPT suggest? Did you like those suggestions? Was there any dumb suggestions? Was there anything you disagreed with? And that's worth 10%. So that's for the brainstorm. I do the same thing for the outline of the essay because I think the outline is crucial. So their students write quite a detailed outline. Again, deviceless on paper. And again, that's worth 10%. So I'm sitting them in class, I'm walking around, I'm sitting with them, I'm seeing them doing it. I'm giving, and some of them get quite, visual, and there's all these arrows and, diagrams and things going, and it's not a linear, like the way I think it's a mind map sort of
Right.
outline, and that's cool. That's totally fine. And again, that's worth 10%. Then they run that through AI, get feedback on their outline, and AI will give them some help. And
So they
then
use
again,
any AI tool. There isn't like a specific prompt you ask them to input. It's up to the
uh,
student.
well, my students are pretty good at writing prompts. I mean,
Great.
I teach them how to write prompts,
Great.
especially how to write prompts to get feedback. So my students are pretty
Not the
good.
whole answer.
Well, No, because that's not what we don't want them to, I don't want the
Yeah,
whole answer. I'm looking at the process, not the product. I'm not looking at the
yeah,
final essay. The final essay is worth 10%. The final essay that's produced, written, that's worth 10% because the brainstorm's 10, the reflection on the AI input on the brainstorm's 10, the outline's 10, the
I see.
reflection on that outlines 10, the first draft is worth 10, the feedback, then they get marked on their prompt for the feedback. So they write a
Okay.
prompt to get feedback and I give them mark that out of 10 as well. And then so they go through the process. So this can apply to any course, any subject, whether it be maths or science or art. Whenever you want the students to do the thinking and not use I think it's okay to use pen and
Mm,
paper.
yeah,
And I think we maybe we have to. I don't know if there's any other option. I don't think we have a choice. This is the structural change of the assessment that the Coburn was talking about in the articles that Ali sent out. It's a
yeah,
structural change. I'm forcing them to do it on paper because I want to ensure so anytime, because say you're doing in medicine and you need to guarantee that students know this medical procedure.
hmm
You might have to do it on paper because there's no other way of knowing that they can't just use AI to use it to do that medical procedure. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. And for the writing, you asked them to do this in one session.
Oh, no, no, no. This takes place over 7 weeks.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Gosh, that would be a bit mean to do that in one
Yeah, I
day.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll try that
Yeah.
method. Thank you.
It's interesting, and the students understand it. And what's amazing is the students actually like the fact that you force them to use paper because it forces them to think, because maybe nobody has forced them to think for themselves for a long time, and maybe they haven't been required to think for themselves. And you know, at the end of the day, some students might cheat and misuse AI and find a way around it and whatever. But to be honest, I've got the paper. They've written on it. I've got the outline. I have a pretty good idea of what they're doing. I have their brainstorm. I have their outline. I've got the AI feedback on it. I've got their feedback on their first draft. I'm pretty sure that they've been doing the writing, that they've been doing it, because I see them doing it. I see them writing it down, and that's the way I use AI. You know what I mean? I don't when I have a topic, I don't go straight to AI, and I'm sure you're the same, Nesreen, and I'm sure everyone in the room's the same. But we know how to use AI responsibly and ethically, but the students don't. So we need to teach them. We need to teach them, and it's not just default AI. I mean, I've had students that I've been talking to, um, having a conversation, and they start typing, and they're going, "Why are you typing? We're having a discussion." And they're going, "Oh, I'm just asking AI about something because I want to respond to you." And I'm like, "We're
Oh
just
my God.
talking, you know, you
Yeah,
know." What are you going to read out what AI wrote? Oh yeah,
yeah.
it's
So I do agree
scary.
with you that we have to adapt it and we have to become friends with it because it's here to stay. This is what I think. So we can't
Absolutely,
like stop pretending it's not there. It's there and it's going to stay and it's going to develop more. So I think as teachers, we need to get on board with our students, basically.
totally agree, Nisreen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh, Coming back to Hani's question, I found something here about the school. Um, Let me just find the name of the school. Mm, yeah, I just UK's first teacherless AI classroom to open in London. Does it say where it is? And some people talk about it will lead to a soulless, bleak future. I love that. The soulless, we're going to have the soulless, bleak future. So be it. And there's a picture of them working away, and that these two guys are doing chemistry or whatever they're doing, but they're totally doing different courses because AI has tested them in such an amazing way that when it gives them a test, it not only looks at results, which is what we humans do, but AI will look at which questions they answered first, which questions took the longest time, which questions they changed the answers to. All of that data, which is really interesting, which we don't look at, and it goes, okay, it got the right answer, but it took a long time and it had to change the human changed its answer a couple of times. It's not sure about this. Whereas if we see it's correct, we go, oh, they know that. So it's just way better at analyzing students, what they know, than us. I just can't see. Here we go. David Game College. There it is. It's called David Game College, honey, to answer your
Yeah,
question.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, good.
Yeah, yeah. And it looks, yeah, there's a bunch of, there's the students doing the courses. This guy got interviewed on CNN. He was really good. I mean, he was interviewed about, does he miss the teacher giving the teacher? And this is after 2 weeks. And they asked him, did you miss the teacher? And he went, well, he was trying to be diplomatic. And he said, well, my teachers are really good, but to be honest with you, no, I don't miss them at all because AI is so amazing and it's teaching me what I need to know. Whereas the poor old human teacher was teaching me loads of stuff that I already knew. What else can we do? And it's lockstep, classroom situation with 30, 35 students. But now he's getting a course that's tailored to him and it's only teaching him what he needs to know. And it just doesn't give him the answer. It knows what he knows and it just pushes him a little bit beyond to try and push him. Do you know what I mean? It's not just an answer giving service. You don't ask a question, get an answer. It teaches
Yeah,
you
yeah,
a little bit beyond, what do we call that? Vygotsky, V something plus one, V plus one, or something like that, is it? Just above your threshold to push you to think that you can cope with something. And it's all, we can't do that. We don't have our brains, we can't do that with 35 students. So
Yeah, zone
this
of proximal
personalization
development.
is, sorry.
Zone of proximal development. It's funny
Yeah.
when you mention this example that the machine is saying this human, it knows this, treating us using it like we are their pets or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's so. Fatima, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I have two questions. With your experience, Mr. Peter, you've taught and you've noticed a difference because your experience is very long. Do you think that AI, it reduces social intelligence and the ability to deal with different kinds of people for students? I'm talking about students, not the teachers. This is my first question. My second question is, do you think AI knows everything that the students need? I know it's a quality thing. It's about, they fill in some sort of, uh, you know, they sum up what the students needs. But that's my two questions. Does it affect their learning intelligence and their social intelligence? That's it.
Okay, thanks, Fatma. They are really, really difficult questions. I think to the first question, does it affect their social intelligence? Absolutely, without a doubt. You know, if you're on screen more, you're going to be not socializing and out playing, kicking a football around with your friends or doing whatever. Um, so, and I think back to COVID days when people were in isolation and working on their computers. So I think it definitely does. Um, so therefore, I think we need to offset that, and I think we need to think about it, and That's why in the UK that school that was doing the AI teachers without teachers, teacherless classes, they came to school and they had break together, and they had football, and they had tennis, and they had events and competition. They still had the school for that social aspect, but learning was done with AI. And I don't know. Part of me thinks that they have a relationship with the AI that maybe negates some of the negative aspects of not, communicating with a human. They're communicating with an AI, and it becomes your friend. I mean, look at social media. I mean, so many people spend. I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I don't. I don't use it that often. I'm one of the least users of social media in the world. But when Facebook was out and I was using, what's still out, isn't it? When Facebook was around and I was using it, and I thought I had all these friends and I was, it was amazing. And I was talking to all these people. I didn't know who they were. I had no idea who these people were. I had like 600 friends and I was like, I didn't know. I knew about 10 of them. But it was just fake, people were liking stuff. It's like that. Have you guys seen that TV series on Netflix called something Mirror, Black Mirror, is it? And there's one of the series, there's one of the episodes is where people go around and you're liked, but if you meet someone in a shop and you do a good job, you're liked, and your whole life has this score. Have you seen that episode? And I thought, oh, that's just ridiculous. But actually, that's not ridiculous at all. That's reality. That's just so anyway. But yeah,
I'll
and
tell
what
you
the
why I'm asking the question. A
yeah,
lot of my students, they graduated and they completed, the university certificates and they got their jobs, but they're having a lot of problems with staying at their jobs. Why? Because their social intelligence are very low
right.
due to the COVID. They're all like they were born in the 2000s, and so
Hmm.
they have. How do we fix that? They come to me, but I want to ask you, how would we fix it? How do we, give them advice based on your
Mm,
experience? I want to help them, so I
yeah,
need your advice. How do we help these smart people, successful people, but they need something about social intelligence?
yeah. Well, first of all, I think we need to be aware of it, Fatima. And the fact that you're bringing it up, to be honest, it's not something that I've thought about a lot. I mean, when those students all came back from COVID and they're all sitting on their phones and they weren't talking to each other, that was I felt that was a bit odd. People in the elevator, we used to say hi and people weren't talking, everyone's on their phone. We have to be aware of it and we have to maybe create activities and events and maybe even courses. I mean, I don't see any reason why we can't have university courses that promote and teach students about the importance of interaction and social interaction and working in a group. I wonder how your students are finding it working in a group, which is not easy. So I think we need to be aware of it and train students on things that, in some kind of way. But it's not my area of expertise. But I'm sure psychologists have courses or ways and activities that people can use to train students about that because it is an important thing. And my daughter, she's 21 and she spent a lot of time during high school during COVID. And my little one, my eldest is 26 and she did her master's during COVID. So they experienced the whole COVID thing. But then I think when they went back to school, that it seemed to be more that it didn't it sort of wasn't as much a bigger difference for them at school as it was at university, where everyone's a little you're new and your social your social skills might be a little bit less developed because of this technology and your background. So absolutely brilliant that you brought it up, Fatima, but I really think it needed to be addressed. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I may add something also, I think because AI or the current models available tends to give you what you want to hear, it will not usually criticize you unless you explicitly ask it. So people might be tuned to hearing positive feedback all the time, but when they go into the real world, then they may not be able to cope with criticism and real life. So this could exacerbate the problem.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, questions, other questions, anybody?
I'm just looking in the I'm looking in the chat. Miriam, Miriam has written a question. It says, my question is regarding the assessment fairness. How can we ensure that students are not falsely accused? Are there any strategies to detect the use of AI instead of over the reliance on AI detectors? That's another excellent question. To be honest with you, Miriam, I have not used an AI detector for 2 years. I I gave up on it. The reality is that there's no AI detector that is foolproof. And with humanizers, students can, get text from ChatGPT and run it through a humanizer that makes it sound more human and gets rid of all the words like delve and resonates and, all the AI words, fabric, tapestry,
And
gets rid of
leverage.
all those gets rid of all those AI words, sticks in a few, typical Arabic spelling, grammatical errors and makes it authentic. And then it's all impossible to detect. And then the reverse of that is when students don't cheat because they are. I mean, I have students now who use the word delve and resonates in their writing all the time because they say, I said, did you write this? And they go, yeah. And I go, oh, yeah, okay. And I go, it's got all these AI words. And they go, yeah, but I'm influenced by AI. I use those words in my writing now. So we have to be careful about accusing anyone. And to be honest with you, Miriam, the only thing that I do is I ask the students, and I have a colleague at Zayed University, Ahmed Salam, and he's got this is his strategy from day one. If you think your students are using AI, ask them, did you use AI? Little bit. How? Well, I got it to write I typed in the question and it wrote my essay for you. Okay, that's more than a little bit, you know. Let's work on this together. Let's try and, rather than give you a 0 and punish you because I've caught you, let's think about how we can use AI in a more responsible way. Hence my idea, my framework for integrating AI into the writing process. But yeah, I don't want to be a detective. I don't want to be the bad guy, the guy that's catching students out and punishing them. I want to help my students. I want them to use this technology in a good way, in the way that's going to help them when they get to work and in a positive way. And Fatma's question about the social issue has really got me thinking. I'm not addressing that. I don't address that enough, and I think we all need to. So thank you for that. That was awesome.
Because I'm a combination like you from a younger generation and older generation. So
Right.
I know the two sides. So a lot of my students, they come to me, I worked and I'm like, you need to be calm. You have to learn to listen. You need to how
Yeah.
to accept all the differences. You have to. So I do workshops for them, but you're higher, you understand, and
Yeah.
Dr. Ali also. So I wish you'd give us like courses on this because our graduates, they need our help and they ask for workshops. I do give workshops like, how to deal later after graduation and stuff like that. So if you do give something like that,
Mm.
it'd be amazing because you're so smart and you have a lot of experience. Not to mention you combined it with your life. Like you said, you had a daughter who went through the COVID methods of learning through AI. And those aspects help us to improve, the new generation and help them to learn better because part of learning is also social intelligence. It's not just about knowledge.
I think, Fatma, that you should be giving us this course. I mean, you know more about it than me and Dr. Ali. You know more about it. Why don't you do the course? I'll come to your course. Absolutely. I want to learn about it, but you know more about it than I do. Can I come to your course?
Okay, Ahmed, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, thanks so much. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Ali so much and Dr. Peter for this outstanding session. And I'm a head of English department in my school and a supervisor for more than 15 teachers. And to be updated, I included the ability of using AI during the classroom activities as a positive point to the teacher. My question is it okay to build part of my assessment rubric for the teachers, of course, on using AI during the activities or inside the classroom?
Absolutely, yes. I make it when I create a rubric, or let me reword that. When I get AI to create my rubric for marking, I make sure that there is part of the rubric is appropriate use of AI because I want them to use AI appropriately. And so that's usually about 20%. I usually specify that I want 20% of the rubric to be appropriate use of AI. And I also have a 40% chunk of the rubric which says something like, student voice, not and in that rubric is not mechanical. Okay, and that's where 40% of an essay is students' own voice coming through. So if you use AI to write your essay, you're going to get 0 out of 40% for student voice because it's mechanical, and you're going to get 0 out of 20 for appropriate use of AI. So you're going to get 0 out of 60. Now, because I don't want to go around and police you, because I'm not going to say you used AI to write this, but I'm going to say, based on this criteria, I think that I can't feel your voice coming through. It sounds mechanical. You got on this criteria, you got 0. Here's the descriptors. Here's why. But I'm not saying you used AI, you're going to get a 0 and go through the headache of proving that and involving the assistant dean and blah, 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 and the process. And you know what? It works. If a student goes, why did you give me 0 for inappropriate use of AI? And I said, well, I feel that quite large chunks of this assignment are written by AI. Is that correct? And they go, oh yeah. and that seems to work, I also wonder if it's a gender thing. I'd like to get your feelings about this. Do you think that, because we have male students and female students at Zayed University now for the first time. I've been at Zayed University for 26 years, and we had male students come in a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's just me, but I find it that maybe it's the male students that are using AI inappropriately a little bit more than the female students, which is not to say that they don't use it females don't use it inappropriately, but generally, I get a feeling that it's a male thing, that males just, it seems to be, I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm getting a thumbs up from Fatima, true, but what does anyone else think?
I think also Ahmed's other side of the question is, what's your view on evaluating teachers on their use of AI?
Yeah, it's a kind of making them to be updated, and also because most of the students are updated themselves, so it's naturally for the teacher also to be that.
So, any thoughts, Peter? What do you think that? Have you had any experience with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what what everyone goes through, and I think it's just that it's not, it's a bit of a shock. This whole AI thing is definitely been a bit of a shock, and it's been a bit of a disruption, major disruption, and everyone has approached it differently, and some people are still in denial. Amazingly, a lot of people are, but it's not just it's not just something that happens at my university or your school or in our region. It's the worldwide. And to be honest with you, I think in our region we are a little bit ahead of the game compared to what I see going on in Europe, where a lot of classrooms ban the use of AI. A lot of universities still have banned the use of it. They use paper and pencil tests for everything, and I think there's a lot of reaction rather than being proactive. And I think a lot of this, and a lot of it's because people don't quite understand. People don't quite understand what AI does and how it does it, you know. But once you sort of understand better how it works and how it generates these texts, and then you can begin to work with it. But as someone mentioned earlier, it's not going to go away. So I think, if you've never used ChatGPT, start today. Go and play with it, and then Go to as many training sessions as you can. Do the Nick Peachy training course. Do courses on LinkedIn that are really helpful. There's courses on Adobe. There's MOOC courses on Coursera about writing prompts, etc. We just got to get informed as much as we can. And I think the more informed we are, the better the decisions we make. Because I'm quite confident that what I'm doing in the classroom is the best that I can do in the current conditions to achieve my aims. I'm I'm confident that what I'm doing is a good strategy. Yeah, and I'm not
You
policing
mentioned,
students.
yeah, you mentioned something important also. Now, if the institution is going to evaluate teachers based on their use of AI to help their students, it doesn't really make sense if the institution itself does not give the support and the training needed to its teachers, and then to set clear expectations and criteria for how they are going to be evaluated. It will be just like evaluating students without giving students clear expectations of what they need to do, actually.
Mm,
So the institution should take a proactive role in this.
yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and to be honest, often at the higher levels where the people are making the policies and at the institutional level, maybe their knowledge of what's happening is a little bit limited as well. So when I was part of the team that wrote the Zayed University AI policy, it involved a lot of teachers teaching hands-on in the classroom from all the different colleges because the maths guys were different from the art guys, from the humanities guys, so yeah, I think there needs to be to say. I mean, I've got a. We could have a talk about. We could have another podcast about teacher evaluation because I was that was my interest for many a years when I was a beginning teacher. But how we evaluate teaching to put it something in the how do you evaluate my ability to integrate AI into my classroom? Good luck. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. Um, Fatima
Okay,
has just written something really interesting that in March 2025, the Finnish Ministry of Education and Culture released national recommendations on the use of artificial intelligence in early childhood education, primary, lower secondary, and general vocation, upper secondary. Finland, yeah, often the leading edge, more advanced than a lot of people educationally. Finland's famous for not, I don't think kids go to school in Finland till they're about 6 or 7, and everyone's like, oh, that's terrible. Your kids are going to be so far behind. But by the time they're 9, they are way ahead. So there's something that the Finnish people are doing that's kind of right, and they're ahead of the game here with developing a policy that goes from the the ministry, from the government, from the ministry to help people like Ahmed who are trying to get his teachers to implement it. And how should we implement it? What do you want us to do? But as you mentioned, Ali, it's a lot about training that we need to train people how to use it because at the moment we're not doing a very good job of it. The training is pretty ad hoc. You go to a conference. You and I were lucky enough to go to the Alt conference a couple of weeks ago. I learned so much at that conference. It was quite amazing. But not everyone has a chance to do that. So training courses, a plan, how to do it within the institution are key.
okay. Any final questions before we wrap up? Okay, it seems that everything is set. Okay. So, Peter, thank you very much for this insightful and interesting conversation today about AI and its role in education. There were some controversial points about, AI replacing teachers and how long, how far away this is going to happen. And people are in denial about this possibility, especially if they are still early in their careers. So thank you very much for your time. And any final comments before we wrap up?
Just thank you very much for inviting me. And, I think, I don't think people, as I said before, we shouldn't worry about what we can't control. And I think, that this replacement of teachers, I think we shouldn't ask the question, will AI replace teachers, but when? And that's probably a better question. I don't think it's going to be in the next 20 years. So, anyone who's 40, relax, 20 years, 40 years, it all depends when AGI, artificial general intelligence, kicks in, because that's going to be a game changer. Trust me, believe me. When we thought things we were in shock when ChatGPT came out in November 2022. Wait until AGI comes out, and we're going to be 100 times more shocked about what it can. When it starts training itself, when it doesn't need human training, and it identifies problems and it solves those problems, it's going to be quite scary. And our roles as humans are going to change. We're going to have to change a little bit our thinking. But I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and really fantastic questions. And I learned a lot myself. So thank you for those wonderful questions.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody. And the recording is going to be at the same link for anybody who missed it or wants to come back to it at some point later. Thank you, everybody, and see you next time.
Thanks very much, everyone.
So, Peter, I ended the live stream now. Thank you very much for this insightful and interesting conversation.